This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A-game. A-made, no rain from the track when we unite and spit. This is an A-game, better bring your A-game. Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A-game. A-made, no rain from the track.
Hey, now it's the Mike and JD show, and I'm your host, Mike Gilbert, and I'm joined as always by JD. By God, leave it. How you doing, JD?
Dude, my thing is, this setup tonight is pissing me off. We were running late because Michelle's feeling sick, and Andy, I had to put him to bed, and he was just being a pain in the ass all night because he's got a little bit of a cold. So I'm rushing to get stuff done, and it's not set up right. And How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm a little bit out of it. I've had a long week at work, and I got one day left this week, and I'm actually projected to take a week off in mid-August, so I'm pretty excited about that. So not next week, but the week after that, I'm taking a week off of work because I need it. So I'm pretty stoked.
I'm going back to work in 2 weeks, and I'm pretty excited about that, actually. I'm actually looking forward to going back to school.
Oh, good. I literally never said that in my life when I was a kid.
Me neither.
Yeah.
But I kind of like my job, actually. You're going to have to read the chat tonight because I don't have my glasses on right now, and I can't read the chat if I tried.
Oh yeah. So I will be monitoring the chat, of course. We have a couple folks already lively in there. But I want to take the time real quick to plug the Patreon. Everybody go to patreon.com/the Mike and JD show. JD earlier in the week dropped a Killing the Town chapter again. What chapter did you drop?
I think 10. I think I dropped 10 this past week. I think I'm going to plan is to drop 11 tomorrow. So, we're trying to knock out 2 a week until the story's done. We got probably 10 chapters to go, I think. So halfway through.
Okay. So yeah, halfway, and he's been uploading a chapter a week, so we're doing pretty good there. Two chapters a week. And also, I think it was yesterday, or it might have been the day before. Dude, my days are running together right now. But I did drop an article about the Shane McMahon Tony Khan meeting and like my thoughts on potentially Shane McMahon joining the company and all that stuff, and about AEW's identity. That was behind the paywall, so if you are a Patreon subscriber, you got access to that. So and if you're not a Patreon subscriber, please do us a solid and pay the $5 and sign up today, please. $5 a month. You get this show ad free. You also get Brace for Impact. You get overtime, and plus whatever articles JD and I are dropping, and and then sometimes randomly I just pop in the Patreon and I'll just do a show. And I'm very likely to do that this weekend because I'm actually going to be watching SummerSlam. So, and since I'm gonna be watching it, I feel like I should at least do a show about it if I'm going to take the time to watch it. But I'm not an idiot that watches WWE because I'm not watching an 8-hour show. I'm not watching a 3-hour freaking preview show. And I'm also not going to sit through all the commercials. So I'll wait till it's over and I'll watch it on Saturday night and check it out.
So do they have matches on? They don't have matches on pre-shows anymore in WWE, right?
I'll be honest. I am a dignified human, so I don't watch any pre-shows. It's just not my bag. I can get the time for that. But I think WWE pre-shows are very much like watching
NFL pre-shows,
like ESPN NFL Countdown or Monday Night Countdown. I think that's what they're doing, and honestly, I'm okay with it. I'm just not gonna watch it because I ain't got that kind of time.
Oh, I could give a shit what they do. I'm not gonna 3 hours to sit around and watch people talk about wrestling. That seems like a great idea. Everybody should pay money to sit around and watch people talk about wrestling. I almost said something really stupid.
Yeah. Well, hey guys, you should spend money to watch guys on at least on a podcast. But the people on WWE are like pretending and they're reading scripts and doing all that stuff. Hey,
we're real people. They're like AI, right? They're like AI humans. They're not real.
Essentially. Hey, we're gonna start the show off hot because we got a super chat. Glassdoor Gamer. Hey, if you guys want to F up my format, feel free to drop a super chat and I'll forget what I'm supposed to be talking about because I do actually have a format that I put together. But Glassdoor Gamer in the house, he said, Mustafa Ali is out of TNA. And He is. Tonight was his last night in TNA. He lost in the main event against Nick Nemeth. I haven't seen it yet, but I did read the spoilers ahead of time. And he actually penned kind of a presidential style thank you to TNA about what his administration did for the X Division title and the growth that their economy saw under his administration, and did that whole thing. And so he said he's focusing on his independence, which I don't know what that means. I think that JD's favorite wrestler might be headed to his favorite promotion here pretty soon in All Elite Wrestling. Would be my prediction.
Which of us watched Dynamite last night? It wasn't this guy. So all I heard was.
Wait, I'm the only one on the show that watched Dynamite this week? That's a first.
I watched Dynamite this week. The family wanted to watch Avengers Endgame last night, so we had to do it. And that's a long-ass movie, so just didn't get around to it this week.
Yeah, it was an okay show, and we'll talk about it here in a little bit. But he also has a comment on the end of it. It says Triple H is racist.
So I hear.
Yeah, if you take a look at the people that have left under the Triple H regime, they don't look like me. I'll just say that. And MVP has been alleging it. We did talk about it. We did. We did talk about it on the show, so I don't want to belabor it too much, but those allegations are out there. The Triple H is racist.
Mike, are you trying to tell me the guy who adorns his gear with the Iron Cross is a racist?
Look, I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying that thought is out there. So WWE lawyers, please don't come after me. I don't have any money. Okay.
No, you want our Patreon? Okay, fine.
It's like Rocky Balboa and Rocky 5 is like, sue me for what? Like, I don't have any money.
I don't have anything.
He's like, freaking Paulie lost all my fortune.
You spend more money filing all the work than you would get out of either of the two of us.
Yeah.
A teacher and a career military guy. Got no money.
Yeah. But yeah, so a lot of people and we talked about we talked on overtime. So if you want to hear our thoughts on MVP, Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, and all that stuff, head to Patreon. I actually ended up not clipping overtime for the YouTube because I didn't have the time, so I just never got around to it. So if you guys want that video's up there on the Patreon. So go ahead and check it out, full audio, and all that stuff too.
It was a good episode too.
Yeah. Let me get to the other chats, and then we'll start the show off. Said here to check in on Mike after he was bullied last week.
Ooh,
dude, honestly, I'm incapable of being bullied. Literally nobody can bully me. Unless they try to come to my house. And if they do, I have a pretty good security system set up that as soon as you hear it cocking, you will walk away from my door pretty fucking quick. So, and not only that, we have armed guards at the base, so you're not getting through. So, nobody can bully me online. It's just not possible because I'll just mute the conversation. So
would you let Mrs. G bully you if necessary? You into that sort of thing?
Dude. Oh, you know what? So I will take that back. I am like the lowest ranking member of my household. My kid actually bullied me right before this show. Wife bullies me, and we're about to have a son that's going to bully me. And also my cat bullies me. So that is like, if you're a member of my family, like in my inner household, yes, you're capable of bullying me. But if you're an idiot on Twitter, you just can't. Like, you can't get to me. Too powerful for you.
I just don't care. I forget half the stuff I tweet half the time. So I don't even, if people are mad at me, I have no idea. Probably. I don't know.
Yeah. IO Production says, here comes the money. Yeah, we're going to get to that, dude. That's the top story. You know what? Actually, before I get to this next chat, let's go ahead and get into the Shane McMahon story. So I did write about it earlier in the week on Patreon. So if you want to see my full article, please check it out and throw a comment on there. If you're a Patreon subscriber, please let me know what you think. Because I actually put a little bit of effort into that one because I wanted people to like it. So if you do like it, put a comment. I got a couple on there, but
I'm disappointed we can't use the "Here Comes the Money" theme in this part of the show because copyright strikes and all that. This just disappoints me.
Yeah.
Speaking of disappointing,
earlier in the week, there was a picture that was leaked with a meeting between Tony Khan and one Shane O'Mac, Shane McMahon himself, the prodigal son of WWE, and they were having a meeting in the DFW airport, Dallas Fort Worth Airport, right outside of Arlington, because I think they taped Collision and Ring of Honor there tonight. I'm pretty sure.
That's the esports arena. Kind of a cool setup, actually.
I actually dig it. I have some nitpicky stuff about the way that it looks. Like if they were to ask me my opinion on how to make it look better, I would give it to them, because I just personally don't like the hard cam facing a flat crowd that's all seated at the same level. I like to see the crowd ascending upwards and like a bleacher setup. I prefer that look. I preferred it in mid, look good on Mid-South. All of your studio wrestling, they always had the crowd ascending upwards. That is my preference. I think they could be able to do that, but
I don't know.
I do think that looks great though.
I don't like yellow. Like it seems like that video board defaults to the color yellow, and that bothers me in general. So I don't like, as there's a giant yellow splotch from the graphic over my head as I speak. But I don't know. I don't like the yellow, but I do like the setup. I think it's cool. I don't know the design. I don't know what the design of an esports arena is. Like, I don't know if it ascends like a regular stadium or if it actually like descends in the seats. I have no clue. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know, but I get the feeling that they could, buy some mobile bleachers and just kind of wheel them in and put them up and have individualized seats.
I think the idea behind this is to spend as little money as humanly possible on these tapings.
That couldn't be more than $500 to get those.
Oh no, it's way more than that.
No, to like rent them?
Oh, trust me. We have to do it for our tournaments every year. That shit can be expensive.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's
all right.
Not cheap. Not as cheap as you would think they are. I'll tell you that.
Well, back to Shane McMahon.
Yeah, sorry.
we got off track. Yeah, him and Tony Khan met. It's pretty funny because I think we might have talked about it a little bit whenever the story first came out. It was I guess Conrad Thompson was talking about it on his show, and then Jim Ross was like, no, I think this is a possibility. And then people kind of went after them a little bit unfairly because like, look what's happening now. And it seems as though they're talking. That photograph was absolutely planted by AEW. Like Tony Khan wanted that.
Tony's face, like, oh no, I've been caught.
Yeah, and you know what? And he had a fresh, I think he had a fresh sparkling water in front of him. So the person that poured that was definitely Jimmy Jacobs. So he's likely the guy that took the picture and strategically released that over to Wrestle Talk.
I like that Mercedes is taking credit for it.
Yeah,
she knows how to keep herself at the center of everything. Smart girl.
Yeah, very, very, very smart. Brian Alvarez seems to think that they're working out something that he could probably come onto the show, but he definitely wasn't on Dynamite last night. Man, what do you think? Like, do you think that A, it's a possibility, and B, if he does come in, what are your thoughts on the whole thing?
Oh, I think it's more than a possibility. I think that Tony Khan put that thing out for a reason. What that reason is, other than him showing up on the show, I don't know. Like, okay, when I first saw this, I clipped it and I sent it to you guys in our group. There's You, Me, and Muse, and I said, there is no God.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of how I felt about this. And then I don't know if warmed up to it is the way I would describe it. But I mean, I don't know. I guess it would get people talking. I don't know if it gets them talking for the right reason or not.
Yeah.
Like, I find Shane to be the least offensive McMahon, right? But I also think he might be the least talented. So I don't know what he gets you.
Yeah. So because I definitely like what he does in the ring, I don't think is value added to AEW.
You have Darby Allin.
I just don't. He's in his 50s. Like I know he's all hopped up on HGH and all that stuff. He's probably still in very good shape and respect.
Yeah. Sweats like a mother.
Once I'm able to get that stuff, I'm probably gonna be jacked too. I just gotta, I gotta get out of the current situation I'm in. But once I'm allowed to have that, I probably will have it. But so there's no value added there. He's not a good promo. Like he just his last run in WWE was not very good as far as promo wise. I think really he is very charismatic on television. I'll give him that.
Always
he is a charismatic performer. He'll fall off of stuff. Like if you ask him to, doesn't matter how high, he will jump off of things and crash through some stuff. And so you could probably do something like that. The problem is, and here's where I have the biggest issue. And there's two issues that I have. The first issue is this is another step for AEW in the wrong direction, losing their identity, right? And we talked about it here before, and Joe and Rich talked about it over there on their show. Mm-hmm. What they were was the anti-WWE, and a move by bringing in Shane McMahon, it's one more step towards what they were rebelling against in the first place. Now it could be like, hey, we're sticking it to WWE by bringing him in, but I don't know that people actually see it like that. I think people actually see it like we're just bringing in another like old guy from WWE, and we're starting to become them.
Well, that started a long time ago. I think honestly, like, because it's Shane, and Shane is the one that like was out for so long and has like been kind of not taken seriously as much as the rest of them. I think you could play it off, but I think again, perception wise, I don't know how it helps you any way, shape, or form. Like maybe it makes for a popped rating for a couple Dynamites.
Yeah.
But unless you have a killer storyline idea that's not regurgitated from 20 years ago, I don't know. I mean, like I'm not gonna get angry about this because they've already disappointed me to no regard. Like I missed the show last week. That's something 5 years ago I never would have thought about doing. I never would have put a movie that I've seen 100 times over that. But I am now because like I don't know, like in the last year and a half, they've kind of made me I can catch it some other time. So I guess I'm not mad about it, but I'm also not one of the AEW fans that go, no, this is a good thing because I'm just like kind of whatever, whatever.
Hey,
do something cool. I don't know.
Am I wrong, or are AEW fans absolutely trying to talk themselves into this?
They're trying to talk themselves into liking. Like AEW fans strive to be what TNA fans are, which is just fall on the sword no matter what happens, right?
Yeah.
A TNA fan is like TNA fans are like Jonestown, right? Like Jim Jones telling them to drink the Kool-Aid very happily. Those hardcore TNA fans, like the ones you made mad last week, I'll do it. They'll do it wholeheartedly. What do you think twice about it? TNA, greatest show in the world. Like it's the AEW fans really want to be that, but like they have to be coaxed into it a little bit. They're like those people that worship the Hail Bob comment that really didn't want to kill themselves, but just kind of had to go along with it. Like
but like after a while they were convinced. It's like, you know what? I bet this Kool-Aid does taste good. Like,
I bet it's okay. I bet there really is a spaceship behind that comment. The more I think about it, that sounds real. It's got there has to be a spaceship behind that comment. That's your AEW fan. We're TNA fan, all about it. Yes, totally.
Yeah, John Mew says dangerous perception move, and that's kind of what that's what I was talking about with my article. And here's what I wrote. I put the possibility of Shane joining AEW raises significant questions about the direction of the company and its identity. AEW is born as a challenger brand, a movement that promised to be an alternative to WWE with a fresh approach to pro wrestling. It was meant to be the company that raged against the WWE machine. I said that here on the show a couple weeks ago. Offering something different to fans disillusioned by WWE's scandals, corporate approach, and lame storytelling. And I think if you bring Shane McMahon in, you're starting to remind AEW fans of why they hated WWE in the first place. And he was a part of that. Mm-hmm. He was absolutely like a reason why people were rebelling against WWE, because he was all over the show and people just didn't want to see him anymore.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that, but I feel like that bridge has already been crossed. Like I feel like we've done so much of that. Like I think we did that when Broken Matt Hardy came in March of 2020 when Matt Hardy was teleporting on the screen. Like you kind of like that ship has sailed with this company, and I do think more often than not they do better, but at the same time, I don't know. Like, there's still too many people that grew up in the McMahon window of how pro wrestling is supposed to be done and just think this is the way it's supposed to be. And they're wrong. They're wrong, by the way. But, like, I don't know. Like, when people tell you who they are, believe them. And I think this is kind of who AEW is and what they think wrestling should be, is like WWE. Like, why? At this point, I'm like, why should I expect anything different? Like, Tony wanted to be different at first, but then you went and hired Pat Buck, right? And you went and hired Jimmy Jacobs. And granted, he brought him a very expensive bottle of water. Like that water is ridiculously expensive, but he gets to pitch his stupid fucking ideas because he's got Tony's ear in the plane. So, this is who they are. Tony has no cool ideas. We'd see him if he did.
Got another super chat from Glassdoor Gamer.
Dude, Glassdoor Gamer. Glassdoor.
Brother, we love you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
The rest of you guys are freeloaders. Yeah, you're the man. The rest of you guys suck.
Like King of the North, all he does is roast me every week.
Yeah,
Gamer pay his money, and then he just wants to shit on Triple H, and I have nothing but respect for it. He said, "Let Shane cook Triple H on the mic." I think that would be like if he were coming to do that, I think that would be great. I just don't think he's going to say anything bad about his family. He's not that guy. He's a very proud McMahon. He's very proud of his heritage. He's very proud. He's very proud of who he is, and I bet he's still very proud of who his dad is. I guarantee that him and his dad are still on speaking terms and all that. And in fact, he's probably upset that Triple H and his sister pushed Vince out. And so this might be his way of sticking it to them because of what happened to his dad. Now, that's pure speculation on my part, but I could see him thinking that, you know what I mean?
I'm going to do a dime store psychological analyzation of Shane McMahon for a moment. I could be totally wrong, but it seems like he was like you called him the prodigal son. Like that phrase gets thrown around a lot, but Mike, you actually used it properly. Like he's the guy who came back. That's what the prodigal son is. So kudos to you on that. Like he should be running that company, but he isn't because like everyone says his ideas really weren't that great. I don't know. I don't think any of his businesses have worked out phenomenally.
And but, I do want to touch on that. So finish your thought because I do have a question for you.
Put a pin in that.
Yeah.
But he's also the one who doesn't have any scandal attached to him. Like everybody says Shane is genuinely a nice guy. Like it's hard to find people who actually will say bad things about Shane McMahon. Like, and part of that is I don't think he has it in him. Do I think he loves Paul Levesque? No, I do not. Like when it's very clear that your father, who you've struggled to gain his approval your entire life, clearly loves the son-in-law more than he loves you.
Yeah.
And we don't even know what's going on with their relationship. So, I don't think he'll do that. I don't think he would come on and shit on his brother-in-law. Would I love that? Would I go to Pro Wrestling Tees and buy a Shane McMahon t-shirt if he shit on Triple H on television? Yes. Would it be good for that company? No, not really. And people go, oh, that's so WCW. Dude, WWE did that too. Plenty.
Yeah.
Plenty. So get off it, you nerds.
Yeah. And honestly, and TNA did that stuff. I feel like if they brought him in and the whole idea was for him to try to take down WWE on the mic, A, he's not very good on the mic, but B, I don't see any value added there at all. So therein lies the problem. I don't see a reason why they should be bringing Shane in. Now, I did have a conversation with somebody, and then I saw a bunch of people saying that, you bring Shane in because he was an executive for WWE for a long time and he's been through the fire, and then he had his own side businesses and all this and that. And I'm like, guys, if he were any good as an executive in WWE, it would be him running the company right now and not Triple H. And honestly, Triple H was not even the first choice. The first choice was Shane, and they realized early on that he wasn't going to work out. So then they pivoted to Stephanie. Stephanie was supposed to be in the Triple H seat, and then they ultimately ended up pivoting to Triple H out of necessity. And so I if he were any good at running a wrestling promotion, he would still be in WWE and he'd be the top guy right now. And if people want to bring up his outside business ventures, like he had a Chinese video on demand service that I'm pretty sure went under, right? Like it lasted for a little bit, but it went under and he ended up coming back to WWE because of it. And he was making a ton of money in WWE whenever he made his return. So I think that could he offer some advice to Tony Khan? I don't know what his skill sets are. He could probably tell some stories of where they failed in the past. I don't know if he's capable of doing that, but would you want Shane McMahon as an executive for your company? I would be cautious, especially for those that are on the outside of the wrestling business that don't actually know these people. I would be cautious about put your name out there saying that they should hire Shane McMahon because I don't think you know what he's good at.
Wrestling fans have this weird perception of people who come up in the business, right? Like it's fostered by people in the business who tell us, well, that guy, like with Dave, you hear this a lot with Dave. Well, that guy never wrestled, so what does he know about anything, right? You listen to anyone who has a podcast with Conrad, they'll tell you that, or Jim Cornette or something stupid like that. Like we overvalue. Like I've heard people say this guy should be a booker. Like with Bryan Danielson, I'm like, I hear all the time, Bryan Danielson should book the company, and I say, why? What makes you think that Bryan Danielson should be the booker of this company? Well, I like him as a wrestler.
Yeah.
Okay. Ric Flair was a terrible booker. Like this is like having, I mean, one of the worst. Yeah. Terrible. Like, we have this idea that people who are successful in wrestling know wrestling, and history time and again tells us that is not the case, right? We overvalue people based on where they've been or what their name is. Like there's a lot of people who think Shane has like some of Vince in him, and Vince for all for the big scumbag that he is a very good businessman when it came to wrestling.
Yeah.
He was not a good businessman in anything outside of wrestling. People have to understand that. So I don't know what kind of value, like people just assume, well, that guy, that's from the WWE hires. Like, well, they work for WWE. So clearly they know what they're doing. And that's how you get Pat Buck and Jimmy Jacobs ruining the AEW product every chance they get.
Yeah. And, Kevin Dunn's like coffee maker, whatever that guy's name, Michael Mansory. Like, that's why you got him kind of ruining the production of the show.
To be fair, Keith Mitchell was ruining production on Dynamite before it was cool.
Yeah, Keith Mitchell was handling that all himself. But and then Glassdoor Gamer, another 2 spot.
Dang.
Thank you, sir. He said, didn't he tell Vince to buy UFC? He absolutely did. Mm-hmm. So he was ahead of the game on the UFC. I don't think Vince would have been able to run UFC the way that Dana White and the Fertitta brothers did. And in fact, I'm pretty sure that if Vince had bought UFC, even if he put Shane McMahon in charge, he would not have let Shane run that company, and they would have ran it to the ground, just like they did XFL, the World Bodybuilding Federation, and everything that they tried, WWE movies, everything that they tried outside of pro wrestling.
Casino.
Yeah, the casino, WWF New York. They couldn't even run a restaurant. So
restaurant, well, that's hard. No, that's okay.
It is.
Running a restaurant is very hard. I've watched Robert Irvine shows that have told me that.
Yeah, hey, I was a shift manager at Pizza Hut, and that was one of the tougher jobs I've ever had. That sucked.
Did you know Jim Hurt?
You know what? I was a shift manager at Pizza Hut in Missouri. But it was about 15 years after Jim Hurt had left the Pizza Hut business.
The deep cut for old school wrestling fans. So
yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't see, unless Shane has some ideas and he really feels, and he's really motivated and feels like he has something to prove in the wrestling space, and he's kind of blowing you away with his ideas. Because again, we've always heard that Shane was an idea guy, but that his ideas were terrible. Quite frankly, but hold on. A lot of that comes through Vince and Vince's people, and Vince also had a lot of terrible ideas in this time. So I don't know. Maybe the source is poisoned. I don't know. I don't know what his ideas are. I mean, like I would be hesitant if I had $1 billion wrestling company. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he's the guy I would hire, but I don't know. Maybe we should consider the source when hearing about Shane's terrible ideas. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what they are. Any of them are, to be quite frank.
Yeah, I don't have any evidence
that
he would be a successful booker. I have 5 years worth of evidence that Tony Khan is a pretty decent booker, right? Like he has booked the number 2 wrestling promotion in the world for 5 years and started out on a 3-month television deal, secured a bigger deal after that, and then secured 2 more primetime television spots, and is now in a prime position to get probably not $1 billion television deal, but to get a significant increase on those rights fees and be sustainable for years to come, as well as profitable. Which leads me to my next story.
Can I throw a controversial topic at you?
Go ahead.
In the post-territorial era, I'd say he's the second most important. I'd say he's the second most successful promoter in the history of pro wrestling.
I mean, like you if you're just gonna wipe out everything pre-1984.
Yeah, because that change. That's the change in business, right? I think like pro wrestling. There's like I think like 1948 with the establishment of the NWA. 1963 when WWF and AWA split off from the NWA. In 1984, I think those are like years you could actually like quantify as those are specific beginnings of eras. And I think in the post-territorial era, it's undeniable. Tony's the second most important promoter. Like you could say, what about Eric Bischoff? Eric Bischoff ran that company into the ground. Don't let Evan Husting tell you different.
Well, not only, but Tony Khan has already outlasted him. He might not have reached the heights that WWE reached, but he not only he outlasted him, and he's about to be like profitable by a wide margin, and he will have like television rights fees coming in that's going to sustain them for a long, long time, right? Unless he decides to blow it on Shane McMahon and Goldberg and guys like, and just totally like blow all the money, which I don't know that he's going to do. I mean, he does have a pretty freaking bloated roster. I think once he gets his rights, well, you know what? And somebody's like, well, he's not successful yet because he hasn't profited yet. And I'm like, well, hold on. All that money that he's been spending is just to build the company, is to get the sustainability, to get to profitability. And then I listed off 5 dominant companies in the world today that had years and years of losses before they were able to turn a profit. And I cited Amazon, Spotify, Microsoft, like all those companies were Apple, Walmart, like a lot of the biggest companies in the world, were money losers for years, is because they were investing into their company and then they were able to become profitable with a smart business plan. And I think that's what's happening here. Now, we could definitely be on the show next week and find out that he blew the TV deal, which is what we're going to be talking about next. AEW and
we got to worry about.
Yeah. AEW and Warner Bros. Discovery, their exclusive rights negotiation window has ended, according to Sean Ross Sapp. We thought it ended, a little bit ago, based off of BJ Bethel's reporting, but Sean Ross Sapp is reporting that it's just now ended. I don't know if it was like today, but he said very, very recently. I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but now which means they're open to negotiating with other companies, man. But that doesn't mean that WBD still doesn't have a deal in principle. I think they probably still have a deal on paper, but they're just so focused on this NBA thing that AEW is kind of taking a backside. Should Tony Khan, be out there hustling for a backup plan should this WBD thing go south?
Yeah, absolutely. So here's the thing, right? We've heard multiple dates. We were talking about this with a friend of ours, so we'll go nameless. There's been multiple dates floated as when this period ended, and we kind of theorized, no proof, just some dudes spitballing, that the deals have been extended in like handshake deals. Well, hey, let's kick the can a month. Give us another month. And Tony has given them extra time because like they've had a good relationship together, and Tony has been a great partner for Warner Bros. Discovery, right? Like that's the most AEW is the most successful Warner Discovery property of the last like half decade. Like seriously, like as far as like being a consistent ratings winner 52 weeks a year, like other than the NBA, that's their best show is Dynamite. So the problem, and if you read TV, like first of all, if you get your news from anybody who tweets about wrestling other than Dave Meltzer, you're dumb. If you read TV people and what they say, TV people have been talking for a long time about how David Zaslav is a complete moron. He botched the NBA deal almost on purpose. He told the NBA to go seek another offer. He didn't have to do that. And they went to Amazon and got that offer. And then he was like, whoa, huh? What?
Wait a minute, I didn't mean that.
It's like telling your wife, yes, we can have an open relationship. And then she comes back and goes, I met somebody, and you're like, oh, like that's a little crude, but that's exactly what happened here, right? And so in TV circles, David Zaslav is getting dragged to the mud. Now, David Zaslav is also not of the Warner side of the merger. David Zaslav is from the Discovery side of the merger, right? Discovery, a channel who made the Discovery Channel when we were growing up was like Beta National Geographic. That's what the Discovery Channel was. Under guys like Zaslav, the Discovery Channel remade itself as, reality TV schlock. Dr. Pimple Popper, the little chubby girl whose name I can't remember who had the TV show. Like those are, I'm talking about? I'm talking about? I can't remember her name.
Is that Honey Boo Boo?
That's it. That's the name of this show. They're getting clipped. There's a good chance. But that's the shows that they got successful on. And they made a lot of money. And because Warner culture, for decades, no matter who is running the ship, Warner culture is always a freaking disaster. So Zaslav in Discovery, when you have a merger, the higher company wins out. Now we saw this 2 decades ago with AOL Time Warner. When that happened, AOL was the more valuable company at the time. So their brass took over. We all saw how that happened. It's notorious for one of the worst mergers in corporate history. Well, we might have a new contender for that. And ironically enough, it's kind of the same company.
Yeah.
So it's not in TV circles. It's not Tony. Like I know the Julian Weekses of the world. God, I love burying that guy. Would like to have you believe that this is all Tony's fault, but it's not. It's Zaslav. Mm-hmm. He should have cemented these guys a long time ago. While he knew he had these problems with the NBA coming up, why have your other successful show that's going to cost you significantly less money? Why have that prick just poking you in the back. When you've got this big monster, you got to keep your eyes on. Why do that? Why not take care of the little thing on the side so that you know that that's all safe to go, so then you can go slay your big dragon? No, Zaslav managed to fuck up two things. So there's a lot of talk now that the board of Warner Discovery might have a vote of no confidence in him, and he may be ousted as CEO. That's not for me speculating. That is rumor and conjecture being spread in TV places, man. Like this could happen.
Yeah, well, he has ruined the company.
Yeah,
and ruined all the divisions. Like he has systematically screwed up a lot of the divisions, and Io brings up a good point. JD, this is for you. Remember when Zaslav screwed up with not keeping the Coyote? I'm guessing Wile E. Coyote film. Like he had movies made and then just shelved them just to save on tax money.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's who this guy is. Like he doesn't make good decisions.
No, which is hilarious when you look back on it, because like the tax money from like a failed film is like drops in the bucket for the problems that Warner Media has. I today just watched a show with my wife. We watched the new Batman, the premiere episode of Batman the Caped Crusader on Amazon Prime. By the way, Mike, watch this show. You're gonna
Am I gonna be into that?
You are gonna be like, you like the original Batman, right? Batman 92. Imagine that, but
the animated series.
The animated series, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Imagine Batman the animated series way more violent.
Okay, I'm in.
Yeah. It's very good. But that was a project that was developed for Max. Zaslav cut it. Said, no, we're not going to do this. Prime says, we'll pay you for it. So he's like, all right, he saw value in selling the property rather than keeping it at home, right? So he thought he was trailblazing by being a content producer. Because again, in like 2018, 2017, 2018, all these companies started their streaming networks, right? They had plans for streaming networks, where all these companies decided they were going to be producers. They were going to be not producers. They were going to be content growers. They're going to host all their own content and not sell it, ignoring the fact that for the majority of the existence of television, producers have made money by creating properties and selling them to networks, right? Networks forgot about that in the streaming era. And that's why we're in the spot that we're in with all these places losing money, because ain't nobody selling nothing. We're building stuff and then showing it. And how the fuck do you make money on that? Right?
Yeah.
That's been the big problem. So Zaslav sold Batman, right? He's doing all this stuff that's not, and his moves are not working straight up. Like that's actually wasn't a terrible move when you look at it from X's and O's, but it's not working, man. Like nothing the guy's doing, and they lose the NBA, and they're going to go to court, and they're probably going to lose. They're looking for a settlement from the NBA. That's where they're at.
Yeah. Like, they're like hard up for cash, and they know that if they sue the NBA for breach of contract, essentially,
the NBA is going to want to make it go.
Their matching rights.
The NBA is going to
get a little bit of change.
Yep, the NBA is going to want them to go away. The NBA does. That's what I'm saying. The NBA has been on Turner Networks for decades, right? And they got so tired of Zaslav, they're down. We went out of here. We'll go to Amazon. We don't even know if it's going to if sports on Amazon is going to work, right?
Yeah. Well, it is working on. The NFL does very well on Thursday nights with their stuff on Amazon Prime. But what Amazon Prime is paying for is the C package for the NBA. And so I feel, just on the surface looking at least from an American consumer, the C package would probably be much more beneficial if it were on TNT and TBS and Max and all that stuff, as opposed to being kind of like in this little cyclone on Amazon Prime, even though Amazon Prime is worldwide, but they're willing to forego all of that to just go to Amazon Prime to quit dealing with David Zaslav. But I do think that it'll probably be pretty decently successful on there. NFL was pretty successful. NBA is like the second most successful like sports property that's out there. And I think that, but there's been some stuff that's been on Amazon Prime that has not worked out very well. Like they've tried some MMA stuff that hasn't really worked out, and they have tried Top Rank Boxing, which really hasn't worked out. But when they're bringing it over the MMA stuff that they had, it was like D-level MMA. It wasn't really anything big. You didn't really have any stars. But NBA, I think NBA at this point is probably bulletproof. Like they're just so popular. I think they're going to work.
Nobody watches minor league sports.
Yeah.
Nobody watches boxing with people who don't matter, right? Like I hate to be like that. No one watches third tier MMA unless you're a hardcore. The most successful offshoot, people can get mad at me. The most successful offshoot sports league of recent memory is AEW.
Yeah.
It just is. Like, I know people get mad when you say things like that, but I mean, it's true. Like, AEW's got a much better market share than the UFL has of the NFL, right?
Yeah.
Or WNBA is actually, after 20 some years, 30 years,
Well,
something like that, they're finally starting to take a bigger part. They're finally starting to get some leverage, right?
women's sports is actually getting hot right now.
It is.
With the Olympics, but WNBA is like, really doing well.
Storylines, man. Storylines and characters. They got a baby face and a heel. Like, I mean, this is the best time for the NBA. They really do. Depending on who you think is who, it depends on where you live and how you think. But I mean, like, look how much faith that the WNBA has had to back and to keep pushing in spite of itself for 20 years to finally become relevant. I hate to be that. I'll be that guy. They're finally relevant. They're finally relevant. Like, and this is what's hilarious is people expect like AEW or TNA or any wrestling company to be what WWE is out of the gate is stupid, right? Like, just look at where we are right now. I mean, that in of itself is impressive, which is why I think Tony Khan should absolutely shop around. If for anything else, to give David Zaslav another ulcer.
So if he doesn't, if the WBD deal falls through, which I'm still on the side of, it's going to work out. I think they're going to get the deal done. I don't think AEW wants to leave. I think they feel like this is the best fit for them, and stability is very important. And I think they also know that if they did go to another network, they do run the risk of losing part of their audience that won't follow them over, because those things do happen unless you're super, super powerful. And as of right now, they're just not. They haven't been in a while. So gun to your head, if it's not WBD, where do they go?
That's a great question. I mean, I don't know who else would be in the market for them. Like, if we're talking cable TV, FX, I could see something like that. Maybe, there was a time I would have said ESPN, maybe one of the smaller ESPNs might pick them up. But with that stuff, with what's going on with Endeavor, I don't think that's going to happen now. I mean, like,
there'd be too many preemptions on ESPN because Real Sports is always going to take precedence.
Well, I meant with part of that because ESPN's building that entire network, that streaming network. Right.
Oh, yes.
They're going to need content for that. So that's still a possibility in my mind. I don't know where you get it. I mean, like, there could be a stupid deal from Hulu or from Amazon or from something for them.
I don't think that that them just going completely streaming would be off the table.
I didn't say.
I didn't say
that. I don't think. I think here's the deal. Excuse me. I just choked on some water. You take the money.
Yeah.
Right. You got to take the money, and if the money is really great to go streaming, you got to do it, right?
Yeah.
But is it great for your sustained growth? I'll be honest with you, I don't know. Cable numbers are dwindling every year, and we hear these guys, cable numbers are dwindling, yet this stuff still does fine. And it's like, okay, sure, but look, people like to say, look how much Dynamite. Like, you can't talk out of both sides of your mouth. You can't talk about how much Dynamite ratings and viewership have plummeted in 5 years without acknowledging how many people have lost cable television.
Yeah.
Like, those numbers aren't slowing down. So you need to have a streaming component.
Yeah, you know what's wild? I was working on something for Brace for Impact, because I've had some TNA fans like kind of getting stirred up about the possibility of TNA going to Sci-Fi. This is just a fan drummed up fantasy rumor that they're starting, right? And so I was just like looking at, okay, well, what is Sci-Fi compared to Access Television, right? Because I was like, I cannot remember the last time I watched Sci-Fi. Honestly, I don't even know if I have access to Sci-Fi right now.
I forgot Sci-Fi was a thing until you just said it.
Well, because Raw and NXT are on Sci-Fi this week due to the Olympics, because they don't put Olympics on Sci-Fi. So I was like, oh, wow. And so people were like, hey, maybe now that they're partners with WWE, and I think we'll get into that in a little bit, would that open up the possibility of them going to a network like Sci-Fi, considering the WWE no longer has exclusive rights to these channels, or to these, like, not only like they don't have exclusive rights to Sci-Fi, but they have, USA, and by proxy Sci-Fi. Sci-Fi is not going to put anything the WWE doesn't want on the network, right? And so would that be an option for TNA? And I was like, how many homes is Sci-Fi in, right? And so I went ahead and just looked it up, and 5 years ago they were in 92 million homes. And right now they're in 69 million.
Okay.
Right. And Access TV is sitting at 50 million homes. like available. I doubt they're actually in that many homes because you have to spend extra money to get access to the channel. So like we're talking a 5-year period. That is a significant drop off of the amount of homes that channel is in. And that at one point in time was a top like 25 station.
Yes.
So, I bring that up to say sci-fi, very much like TBS, TNT, ESPN, all like they're in so many less homes than they were 5 years ago that if you're an AEW, I think you have to look at like streaming exclusively being a viable option at this point if the money is there. Much like, hey, look, if NBA goes to Amazon, you might want to call Amazon to see if Wednesday nights are available, right?
Mhm.
Like you might want to call, like, I don't know if Hulu's spending money, but we brought up ESPN Plus, that could be a home for AEW if just be exclusive on there, because there would be no preemption issues because they can stream as many different things as they want.
Mike, do you know who owns Hulu?
Disney.
Disney got money. Disney don't have a problem spending money.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, you have to have a streaming component because like as much as we fight, there's people that still fight this. Cable is shrinking. It just is. Is it going to go away? Probably not. There will always probably be a market for it, but will it be what it was in the 2000s, right? Or the 90s? No, those days are gone. Streaming is just, it's not the future, it's the present. Now, what is streaming in 5 years? That's the question, is we don't know.
Yeah.
Like they grew too fast, right? It's not sustainable. Like I said, there's not enough money in production, right? Production sellers have to sell things to networks. When networks are generating their own content, there's not opportunity to make money. When there's no syndication, it's hard to struggle. Like Big Bang Theory, Friends, those things are going to make money forever because of the syndication deals. This is the problems, right? The subscription model, it's not sustainable, right? Like not having advertising is not sustainable for these things. This is why there's so much struggle going on right now. So what streaming is today and what it is in 5 years could be completely different. AEW now they have currently no streaming, right? Mainstream streaming currently. They need it for their future sustainability. That's why any deal with WBD has to include Max.
Has to.
Yeah,
100%. 100%. I gotta get to King of the North. He gets so tickled when TNA fans say this, so he had to chime in. He said,
"Please,
Mike, TNA fans think they'll sneak in the back door and take AEW's TV deal." I have actually seen people say that.
I have some people say that too.
Yeah. I've heard that. Look, guys, that's TNA fans. You guys got to be realistic about where they are in the marketplace, and that is not going to happen.
Mike, a lot of them aren't. And I read some of the responses to your tweets sometime when you talk about TNA. The Black Taurus tweets were making me laugh specifically today.
Yeah.
When we were in Andy's doctor's appointment.
Yeah, let's get into that. And I actually had some people, people in the Brace for Impact chat, actually, Gerard and Dobby the Brain Heenan, they go, Mike, you're saying this. Yes, TNA absolutely should have pushed him a lot harder, and they should have actually treated him better, specifically in 2023. Now, in 2022, he did have a winning record in TNA, but he was never really like a featured guy. But in 2023, he was 1-15 throughout that whole year, and then he hasn't been in the company since then. But since he's been on AEW television, he was 0-5 up until last night. And so, and people were citing his Ring of Honor wins as being something that counts. And I would say, look, I have not been happy with what he's been doing in AEW, but he did beat Commander on Death Before Dishonor. And if you guys have not seen Death Before Dishonor, that was a fun show. I actually watched it over the weekend. It was a good show. So he was able to beat Commander. And then on Wednesday, he got a pin over Mark Briscoe. Now he's likely to take an L whenever him and Mark Briscoe wrestle. But I do think that AEW, I think he's been proving his worth. He's been taking those L's on those shows, kind of building his way up, gaining trust of the company. And I think they're probably going to get behind him.
See, here's the thing that people haven't figured about Tony Khan yet. If Tony likes you, you lose.
Yeah.
Right? If Tony wants to do something with you, he puts you on TV and you eat some losses. Right? That's just how he's always booked. Right? We've got 5 years of Tony Khan booking patterns right now. Very few guys are protected in AEW. Right?
Unless they're big stars before they get there, right?
John Moxley.
Or unless you're Bryan Danielson and you just like to lose. Like he loses more than he wins. But Jericho came in, he was not losing. John Moxley was not losing. But younger guys, he actually was beating them for a little bit with a few exceptions.
Man, Swerve Strickland's the world champ. He did more than his fair share of jobs early on in this company, right? Like, if Tony likes you, he kind of like, and Vince did the same thing when he brought people in back in the day. Bring them in and they lose right away just to see how they react. Like, I think too is who is he working with? Like, say what you want about Mark Briscoe. Mark Briscoe is another one who lost a bunch of matches early on, and now he's a main player in AEW. Like, he was the star pretty much of the Blood and Guts match a couple weeks ago. Like, Mark Briscoe was phenomenal in that match. You know, what's he now? The Beast Muertos is something like that.
Muertos. And honestly, Tony Khan, if you're listening to the show, and I know that people in that company have listened to the show, I have evidence that is the case.
Yeah.
Okay. Just call him Mortos. Just Mortos. That's better on a t-shirt. Just Mortos. It's easier to say. But go ahead.
Yeah, as you were saying. But he's working Darby Allin. Like, he's working people that matter.
Yeah.
Whereas in TNA, he really didn't. Like, if you tell me anyone who lost to Tommy Dreamer is not someone that a company takes seriously.
Yeah.
He could show up my DMs again. I really don't care. If you lose to Tommy Dreamer, you're not being taken seriously. If you lose to irrelevant Bubba Ray Dudley, what is he called? What was he up for? Bully Ray. That's what he was. Yeah, you're not taken seriously. Like, I know TNA fans will get mad for you saying that, but I mean, they didn't take him seriously. They didn't take Laredo Kid seriously. They don't push luchadors. Who's the last luchador that got a push in TNA after the Lucha Brothers?
Literally, it was once the Lucha Brothers left, they never pushed anybody. They had Laredo Kid and Taurus in that company for years. Remember, we never did anything with them.
Remember when Laredo Kid was with TNA? He did the one match in AEW, and we joked that he has more, because we did this on the early days of Brace for Impact. We joked that Laredo Kid had more wins in AEW than he had in TNA or Impact at the time. Oh yeah.
So, you know what? And I told some people tonight, because TNA actually has a pretty big show coming up in San Antonio at like a decent sized venue,
you know,
for Victory Road. And like, you know, if you would have treated those luchadors with some respect, you might be able to sell all those tickets. Now they're doing pretty well in the ticket sales, you know, for their level. And when I compliment TNA for what they're doing, you have to know I'm talking about for their level, right? They have a fraction of the budget of AEW and WWE. Yeah. So when I say that 1,000 tickets is good for TNA, that is very good for TNA. And so they've been doing those numbers pretty regularly lately. And so, you know, and good for them. Kudos to them. Yeah. Now, which actually leads us into our final topic of the night. Actually, before that, Daniel Garcia reported last night on the Wrestling Observer Radio. Looks like he's going to re-sign with AEW. So let's... Yeah. Kudos, I guess, for getting the deal done. It has not, well, at least it's not done yet, but Dave Meltzer is thinking that it's very likely to get done.
I'll tell you this, my kid is so invested in Daniel Garcia because we were there when MJF betrayed him and murdered him. And my kid was all on the MJF train. He had forgiven MJF for his past grievances against Darby Allin. Andy was like, totally, he's such a mark. He was so on the MJF train. And then he betrayed Daniel Garcia like that. And you saw the video, but he was, MJF's a chicken and I hate him again. And like, so Daniel Garcia did a great job with that.
Yeah. All right. Last topic before we call it a night. And I will likely be back this weekend on Overtime recapping SummerSlam. I might even bring in Cousin Joe on that. I might do something with Cousin Joe because JD's not watching that shit, but
not a ghost chance in hell.
Yeah. I'll check. I'm actually really interested in CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre.
Okay.
I'm very interested.
What are the odds Punk gets hurt?
Pretty high, given his history. Yeah,
he's just pretty injured. I hate to pick on the guy. He's just, I think he's just pretty injury prone. Hey, you know what's hilarious now? I'm sorry, Mike. I have to do this on the main show. Do you see all the tweets about Logan Paul today? I
did, and I was like, I don't know if we want to touch that.
I don't want to. I'm not going to touch.
You know what?
But I just want to say this. Someone's like, well, I hope CM Punk says something to Logan Paul. I'm like, that ain't going to happen. You're more likely to see CM Punk with his arm around him in a picture than actually saying something to the guy.
Well, and you know what? Like, Logan Paul can actually fight. like as much as we don't like Logan Paul. And look, I'm gonna touch on this briefly. And I actually did put a little blurb in on the Patreon today. I released something I pulled some different stories from around the web and kind of put them in, and I was like using it as show notes for this show. And I was like, I don't know that JD and I want to get in on that topic with Logan Paul, but here's what this idiot did. You know, I'm just going to go and pull up the name because I want to make sure I say the lady's name right because I don't want to disrespect her. But he Logan Paul, dumb, got himself into hot water today, making transphobic comments about an Algerian boxer named Iman Khalif. Now, if I mispronounce that, you guys are more than welcome to educate me, and I'll make sure I say it right. But she defeated another woman boxer in the gold medal of the women's boxing in the gold medal. I don't know what weight class, but she won the gold medal. And people were accusing her of being trans, and she's not. And he took to Twitter, and several other like right wingers took to Twitter saying that this is a biological male beating up a biological female, and Democrats are letting it happen. And I'm like, first of all, like Kamala Harris isn't even like on the Olympic committee, and she's not Algerian. So I don't know, like, but like literally you go on and like,
I know I saw
they're saying like, saying like Clay Travis and these guys, like, and Democrats are letting it happen. I'm like the Democrats don't have oversight over the Olympics, guys. I don't know what you're talking about. But so anyway, of course they try to make it political and about the election. But it turns out he was wrong. And then he like said, oh, it looks like I might've been spreading some fake news, and then continued to double down on his stance. Now, whether or not you agree with his stance, that's one thing. But the fact of the matter is being trans in Algeria is illegal. So, and this woman was born a woman. I think some women are born with different chromosomes, right? And I don't know the science behind it, so please don't get me on here acting like I know what the hell I'm talking about. I don't, but I do happen to know somebody in my life that had a similar situation where they were born female. The plumbing was all female, all that stuff, but they had the extra chromosome, right? And so they did have some male-like features, but this is a woman, biological woman, like a legitimate woman in boxing that has been licensed 4 years and actually was in the previous Olympics as well. So he got that completely wrong. And then people were trashing this poor woman, and you guys all should be ashamed of yourselves. You're not, because you're stupid idiots. But the whole thing was disgusting. And I hope he makes a public apology, which he has not done. And then if I were WWE, I'd pull him off the show altogether and not use the guy, because I don't think he's any value added. I just don't think they're going to do that, because they probably see him as being somebody that adds value to the company.
And someone they don't disagree with, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. There are, for lack of a better term, manly athletes that are women. So been that way from jump. Like,
yes,
well, that's an advantage. Well, you know what? Being athletic is an advantage in athletic competitions.
Guess who else has an advantage? John Jones has an advantage every time he steps in the cage, because he's a mutant, right? Yes. He just has muscles that we don't have. He can knock the fuck out of you, and there's nothing you can do about it, because he has a physical genetic advantage over you. That's just the way it goes.
I'm going to tell you this right now. You guys don't know who Spencer Lee is, but in a couple weeks, you're going to know the name Spencer Lee, because he's going to win an Olympic title, because he's going to grab someone, take them down, and lock his gigantically long, ridiculously strong arms around people and crush them with a gut wrench. Some people are just born with freak talents and abilities, right? And their genetic advantages. Sports is based on genetic advantages. Yeah. Like, that's just the way it is. And that's just a lot in this Olympics, where anytime there's a woman who doesn't fit what some I'll just say dork thinks a woman should look like, it's like, well, that's clearly a guy. It's like, come on, dude, like, stop this.
Yeah.
Stop it. Like, just stop. Like, we got to stop accusing every woman who doesn't fit what we think they should look like is, well, that's clearly a man. Like, grow up, man. And that guy should just grow up, but I don't think he's gonna, because I think that there's probably a bunch of people that are high-fiving him.
I think so too. And and yes, King, Pat McAfee did make an ass of himself, but here's the difference. Pat McAfee's an idiot. I happen to like his show. Okay, I do, and I've liked his show for a long time. Here's the difference between Pat McAfee and Logan Paul. I guarantee Pat McAfee issues an apology and will feel actually really bad about it. I just know that from watching his show for a long time, he will do that. I don't see the Logan Paul or Jake Paul or any of these other cats that are doing that. I don't think they have that in them. I think Pat McAfee does. I agree. All right, let's get off of that topic. I was like, man, this is a fun show, and we've had some heavy topics, and I felt like we had to cover them, but I was like, I didn't know if I wanted to get into that one, man, because
I just wanted to make fun of WWE, but you steered right into this, and I think you handled it quite well, Mike. So,
well, thank you. All right. Lastly, let's go ahead and get into it. I'm just going to read this verbatim from my article today. In a not so surprising move, Joe Hendry has revealed that he's training at WWE Performance Center full time, thanks to a collaboration between WWE and TNA Wrestling. Yeah, so that should work out well. I mean, just no big deal. Just TNA and WWE collaborating. Joe Hendry's just happens to be working there, doing stuff. He's working house shows now. He was on Great American Bash this past week doing a concert. He'll be on the Great American Bash coming up this week, wrestling. I think Gallus #1. I don't know who. I think Joe Coffey actually is his name. It might be Joe Coffey, but one of the Gallus guys. And now he's just, when he's not working TNA, he's operating out of NXT. It's no big deal, right?
In 1983, WWF went on the USA Network with a show called All American Wrestling. And it was called All American Wrestling because they showed matches from all the territories, and promoters from around the country could not wait to send Vince McMahon their tapes. Like Hulk Hogan from Minnesota in the AWA was featured prominently on early episodes of All American Wrestling. You know who else was featured prominently? Kerry, the Von Erich brothers, Kerry in particular, featured prominently on early episodes of All American Wrestling. We all know what happened, right? Like, this is what it's so funny to me because like it's old is new again, even like these old tricks. And honestly, I can't fault Joe Hendry for this whatsoever. No. That man belongs in NXT more than any human being has ever belonged on a television program. Joe Hendry belongs in NXT. So how long until they say, we're gonna take Joe Hendry from you now?
Yeah. I don't fault Joe Hendry. I don't even fault WWE. I don't think this is predatory whatsoever.
No,
I think they're partners with them, and I think they got Joe Hendry like, holy shit, we did not realize what we just brought in. We didn't realize how over this guy really was.
Oh, I believe the two of us made that call very early on in this partnership on this show. You and I kind of railed against how things were working out, and we were told, no, you guys are dumb. And now look what happened. They realized what they had.
Yeah, and the same thing happened with Jordynne Grace. Like, oh my gosh, she's a star. Right. And then now Jordynne Grace was able to get out of her contract, and she looks like in January, which you called, by the way. I did not call. I thought that she would at least complete her contract. Sean Ross Sapp keeps going on Fightful.
No honor in wrestling. Come on, Mike.
Yeah, Sean Ross Sapp keeps going on Fightful saying that, look, guys, Joe Hendry's got a contract, and he's under contract for a long time. I don't think it matters very much. Now, could WWE just continue to use him and let him work TNA? It's not the craziest thing in the world. I think ultimately he's like, the moment that they can work out the deal for like some type of contract buyout, I think it's going to happen because I think Joe Hendry will make WWE a lot of money.
Here's the key.
I think he will.
Here's what's interesting. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, how Joe Hendry finally had a pro wrestling tees store. I said, what the heck was this guy? Should have had this thing a year ago.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I truly believe this is an experiment. WWE can watch those pro wrestling tee numbers and go, that should be our money. And then all of a sudden that becomes a shop WWE product. Like, here's what's great is they can let Joe Hendry train. They can put him on their shows. They can use him and they don't have to pay him.
Well, I'm sure they pay him his rate, whatever it is.
I mean, a day rate. I mean,
which is a drop in the bucket for them.
Right. They don't care. But he's not under contract. Like, they're not paying. Like, he's not making, we'll put it this way. He's not making as much as insert X performance center trainee is there. Yeah. Like, pick one. Kalani Jordan, the name I don't even know what they do. I just picked them up. I just picked that name out of my collective memory. Like, I'm sure he's not getting paid as much as Kalani Jordan is to be there, but he's over. And eventually WWE is going to do what WWE always does and go, we want that.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
And it's smart. They should. Well, look how over
I'm
the
not
guy.
saying I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's predatory. I'm saying it's wrestling. And that's what every single person working in the independents right now wants to do. They want to grow their awareness and grow their brand so they can get picked up by a bigger company so they can make more money.
Yeah.
That's wrestling. That's life. Right? Don't we all try to get a better job somewhere so we can make more money? Like, again, maybe TNA fans are going to get offended when I say this. What'd I say?
No, I'm saying I'm doing that right now.
Okay.
I'm actively trying that.
I was not reading your mail. No, like I had a rant. It's gone. Like, that's what I'm saying though. Like, this is what you do. This is what we do. Like, people are like, well, people TNA, like, people don't want to leave. Like, no, man, no one cares. They say I'm this company till I die, until that doesn't happen anymore. And then I'm really not for that company. Like, dude, that's not. I don't even want to make fun of people for that because that's just life. Like, nobody cares. Like, this is reality, right? Nobody cares about you except you and your family. So you have to do what's best for you and your family at all times. No company is going to be there for you when you need them, right? When you're down and out and you need money, what are they going to do? They're going to WWE may throw you a Legends contract. It doesn't really mean anything. You're not going to get paid. It's not going to be enough to pay your bills, right? At the end of the day, you got to look out for number one. You got to look out for your family. Do what you got to do. If Joe Hendry can get himself a job in NXT, and more power to him.
Yeah, if you're working for a wrestling company and you die, right, and you die, even if you die in the ring, they will have your replacement ready to go before your funeral even starts.
We saw it. We all watched it. If you're old enough to see what happened to Owen Hart, that's what happened.
Yeah. And that's not only wrestling, that is every business. The show is going to go on. They're going to have you replaced in a heartbeat. It's even that way in the business that I'm in the military. What we lose one person, and then all of a sudden we have trainees ready to get up and take their spot. That's just the way that it is.
That's all business. That's all jobs. Like unfortunately, we have a teacher at the school who's got cancer, and he sent us an email today saying he's not going to make it. And it broke my heart to read it, man. But you know what? They're going to have to hire another math teacher.
Yeah.
Right. That's just life. And I work for the most socialistic program in the United States, public education. Like that's just life.
Yeah.
It just is.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? And I think so far, TNA fans are surprisingly positive about this for Joe. Like, I think they're genuinely happy for Joe.
How can you?
I think they're genuinely happy for Jordan Grace, because sometimes you'll see like the opposite. And I do think that if they went to AEW, it'd be a different story. They would be mad at them, right?
I agree with you.
Yeah, because there's always been this resentment from TNA fans towards AEW, because AEW kind of came in and took that number 2 spot, and then we're bigger than TNA ever got. We're able to sell more tickets and more pay-per-views than TNA ever could, and there's a resentment there, and I get it. And so
it goes both ways though too.
And AEW fans are very like snobby towards TNA and TNA fans, specifically King of the North. Like, he's probably the worst.
That's true. You had a great tweet about Santana today that I thought was very, very appropriate, because it's 100% accurate.
Yeah, well, because Ibu finally is coming around on it. So Ibu from Wrestle Purist said that when Santana's deal is done, WWE should make him an offer, because the guy's gotten himself into great shape and he's doing great work. And I agree. And I was like, hey, look, AEW fans that have been talking about Santana, like they've been trying to say that he's not any good, that Ortiz was better and this and that. They're only saying that because he left AEW on his own. He didn't get fired. It wasn't like his contract expired and Tony didn't want him anymore. Like 2 years before his contract expired, he wanted out.
He made that very clear.
He made it very clear, and he wanted out on his own. And he's doing very well for himself, not only in TNA, but on the indies. And you love to see it. I think the guy is going to get paid at the end of this deal. TNA typically signs, so he's not a full-time contract with TNA. And so it probably means like 2 years, probably like 2 to 3 years. I think in 2 to 3 years, you're going to see him probably in WWE making real dough. He's that good.
I hope so. He's got it. It just didn't work out in AEW with him for various reasons. He got brought as part of the tag team, and sometimes you get brought in as a tag team, you're thought of as a tag team guy, right? And he just had a hard time breaking through. Like it seemed like when he was finally starting to break through, he tear his ACL or something like that.
He did during Blood and Guts, and then he got back, and they did the feud with Ortiz, and it was very good. Like, they had good promos. I thought the match was good, but then they just never went anywhere with it.
Where can you go? Like, he wanted out. They were trying to do something with him before he left. I'm sure they were trying to say, hey, man, we'll keep working with you. I think he just didn't want to be there. I think he wanted to go somewhere else. He probably saw that he just wasn't a lot of opportunity for him to break through, and he got a chance in TNA. That's why TNA is important in the wrestling landscape. That's why we need TNA. That's why Ring of Honor needs to get back up and going. We need more opportunities for guys to make an impact, pardon the pun, somewhere, right? Because it's hard to break through. It's real hard.
It is. And TNA is a good spot. If like you had a run in one of the bigger companies and say it just didn't quite work out. It doesn't mean that you're not a good wrestler, not a good worker, not a good promo, but sometimes it just depends on the situation and the opportunities, and sometimes things just don't go your way. And if you can land on your feet in a place like TNA, hone your craft, work on your skill set, and then make yourself marketable and valuable to a bigger company, like you can go back and do that. Or you can be Eddie Edwards and Moose and Brian Myers, who I'll take it back. Moose and Eddie Edwards never really made it in a big company, but you can get to TNA and you're still very good, but you're just kind of like happy, and and Eddie Edwards, you're kind of like fat and happy, and you're just excited to go to work and make decent money and work the TNA schedule. You can also live that life too, if that's what you want. But, I think it's important to have a TNA and a Ring of Honor in the ecosystem, because they ultimately will feed the bigger promotions, right? And they're not ever going to be in the position to, I take it back. Ring of Honor is AEW. It's AEW's feeder system at this point.
But it's like, it's 100%, but it'll be like NXT. NXT gives guys a chance to make a name for themselves. We just talked about Joe Henry. AEW needs Ring of Honor to be, I've been saying this for 2.5 years now. AEW needs Ring of Honor to be that. You know what TNA is? TNA is Memphis back in the day. Memphis was a place where when guys, I'm just listening to Bix and Chris on the Between the Sheets Patreon are doing a thing about Eddie Gilbert right now. And they're talking about how Eddie bounced back to Memphis in 1990, right after it just didn't work out with WCW. So you need that place. You need a place where guys can hit a reset button. ECW served that function in the late 90s for a lot of guys. Al Snow got his reboot in ECW. Chris Candido, just incredible. Yeah. Like Bam Bam Bigelow had his nice comeback from EC3 by ECW. Like you need that place. Like TNA, I know people kind of bury it, but I think the day TNA goes out of business is a terrible, terrible day for professional wrestling, because guys need to work. Guys need a place where they can get exposure, I should say. Like that's necessary, right? It's just necessary.
Yeah. I dig it. If you guys want more TNA talk, tune in this weekend. Brace for Impact. I'll be watching the latest episode of Impact probably later tonight, and I'll have a review out this weekend. Brace for Impact. We'll talk about all of the news. I'll probably go more in depth on the Mustafa Ali story. It looks like he was probably on a 6-month deal. He is now a free agent. And we'll see where he goes from here. Maybe he comes back. Who knows? I think he's probably angling. That has happened. I think he's probably trying to angle to get him way into AEW, but if AEW doesn't take him, which has happened to people, he could very well come back. I don't think he wants to go back to WWE. The guy tried like hell for years to get out of there, so he could very well end up back in TNA. So we'll discuss that. So join us, patreon.com/The Mike and JD Show. I'll also be back later this weekend with an overtime recapping SummerSlam. I will make it my point this week. So both of my knees are shot. So Sunday morning, I typically go on like a 6 to 7 mile run, but my knees are so swollen and shot right now, I can't do anything. I'm in physical therapy. It sucks.
What'd you do?
And I believe it or not, I got runner's knee on both knees at the same time. And it's because I'm actually gaining weight now because of it. It sucks. But I decided to incorporate a lot more leg workouts and do a lot more squats and different types of squats, training for my fitness test, which I nailed. And I was doing a lot more sprints, and then I would incorporate some long distance running, and it just got overwhelming. And I went to the doctor, and the doctor diagnosed me with two very dire things. The first one being runner's knee, and the second one is, Sergeant Gilbert, you're 41 years old. And I was like, okay. She goes, now your knees are arthritic. So, and you have runner's knee, and you have to go to physical therapy and get rid of all the inflammation and all the issues that you're having with your knees. So I'm like, damn it. So now I can't run right now. So I'll probably just do Sunday morning instead of my morning run at the beach. I'll probably just do a podcast.
Dude, I've been working out really hard this year too, and I got tendonitis now in my biceps because I was really focusing on trying to get bigger arms because I'm an egomaniac. So I got tendonitis in my biceps. Then I think I slept wrong on my collarbone. So my collarbone's been hurting for the last 2 days. Like I was trying to put my backpack on. I was like, oh God. So dude, getting old freaking sucks, but I'm fighting it every step of the way.
Yeah, dude, I was talking to somebody that just recently retired from the military, and he got 100% permanent and total disability rating, which doesn't mean that you're disabled. It just means that like you get paid 100% of what you were making activity. You get that, right?
That's cool.
Yeah, and he gets that for the rest of his life. And I was like, hey, well, what injuries did you have? And he kind of listed them off, and I was like, oh, he goes, what do you got? And I was like, well, I had a left shoulder surgery. I had a labrum. Right was a Bankart. I had brain surgery. I also have 2 bad knees, 2 bad hips, diagnosed PTSD, and I also have burn pit exposures. And he goes, and he starts doing this. He goes, I think you're like 375%. So if and when I do decide to retire, I think the VA is probably going to take care of me because I'm pretty beat up.
It's weird to say that's a good thing. Like, I mean,
it really is, because I'm like, on the grand scheme of things, I'm relatively healthy, all things considering, right. Once I get over this, once I let my knees relax a little bit and I don't beat them up too much, I could probably get back to running. But
like, I think only the military is one of the few places where you can get that kind of a deal just for being, wear and tear, beat up. I envy you, sir, but not really. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a lot, but I don't want to have to do all that to get it. But I feel it. I feel it for you.
Yeah. You know what? And it's like, knock on wood, hold on. The burn pit exposure that I had during my first deployment so far has not done any damage that I can tell, but they're going to check whenever I retire. So they'll
keep an eye on
they'll check. I might try to jam something into my lung or something just to ensure it, but I appear to be mostly pretty healthy. But
is that a spatula? Sorry.
Yeah. But hey guys, that is going to do it for us this week on the Mike and JD show. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, please give us a 5-star review. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a big thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button and then head over to patreon.com/the Mike and JD show and become a premium subscriber today. I'll be back again this weekend, and until next time, mahalo.
Competition starting to get thick. It's the click, so I hope you watch your